For all those that are interested, by the way, I had to say this. Hayom Shnayim V'Eshrim Yom Shehem Shlosha Shavuot Yom Echad LaOmer. For those that say Ba'omer, you're wrong. Anyway, as you see on your agenda now, you have to understand a few things. This is really free form in many ways. As you well know, we have the pleasure of having Rabbi Eliach. We have the pleasure of having Robert Frosty, the president of the school. We have the president of the SGO, the president of the student council with us. And most importantly, we have Susan Berger-Kroshak, who is taking care of the alumni office and has done a wonderful job since last June. I won't say Baruch Hashem that Bibi retired. Quieter! I won't say Baruch Hashem that Bibi retired last June, but if she hadn't, we would have been in the yeshiva, which would have been okay, but this is even better.
Yeah.
And I have a hakarat tov in my bio to Bibi, who really did a phenomenal job for 26 years as the director of alumni affairs at the yeshiva. Really, she did a great job. As you see from the program, again, when you leave, please see me because you have your bags packed, and I have a special present also. As you see from over here, we have the picture of the high school class. We have a picture of the elementary school class. Those of us that went to the elementary and the high school will get a copy of both. Those that went to the high school will get a copy of the high school picture. You can frame it. You can hang it on the wall. You can throw darts at it. Call it kavod, whatever you would like. Before we actually hear from some of the graduates, and more so from our guest and Rabbi Eliach, we have a number of tefillot. And if I lose it at any time, I apologize. But this has been going on since March 5th of last year. As you remember, my Purim missive to you. And as one of my closest friends wrote in his bio, it was truly a labor of love. And I want to thank you all. My partner Diane has been through this for the last year and 2 months. I don't know how she's tolerated it. And David Binder has received emails from me in Israel time, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, and 10:30 in the morning Israel time, which means you know what time it was here. I'd like to start off with Tfilah Ba'ad Medinat Israel from Esther Mark Stofsky. Esther, please come up.
Gotta put on these lovely reading glasses. I hope you hear me, there's no mic. Avinu Shabashamayim, Sur Yisrael v'Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Pulatenu, Hagen Alea be'evrat chastecha, Ufros Alea Sukat Shlomecha, Shlach Orcha v'Amitcha L'Vasheha, Sareha v'Yoatzeha, V'tatneim be'etzat tova L'Fanecha, Chazek et Yidei Meginei Eretz Kachenu, V'anchilem Eloheinu Yeshua v'ateret nitzachon ta'atrem, V'natata Shalom ba'aret, V'simchat olam Yoshveha, ואת אחינו כל בית ישראל פקדנה בכל ארצות פזוריהן. ותוליכי מהרה קוממיות לציון עירך ולירושלים משכן שמך. ככתוב בתורת משה עבדך. אם יהיה נידחך בצא שמיים, משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהיך ומשם ייקחך. והביאך אדוני אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר ישו אבותיך וירשת והיטיבך והרבך מאבותיך. יחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראת שמך ולשמור את כל דברי תורתך ושלח לנו מהרה בן דוד משיח צדקך לפתות מחכה קץ ישועתך. הופע בהדר גאון עוזך על כל יושבי תבל ארצך ויאמר כל אשר נשמה ביפו אדוני אלוהי ישראל מלך ומלכותו בכל משלה Amen, Sarah.
At this time, I'd like to call up our friend Bruce Diamond for tefillah for Atzot HaBrit.
Rav. No doubt many of you remember Rabbi Eliak's address to us. Some of us graduated B'chein, some graduated B'chesed. Graduated Barachamim. On behalf of those of us who graduated Barachamim, I cannot tell you how glad I am to discover you forgot us. A prayer for our national leaders. Ribon ha'olam, kabel na barachamim et tefilatenu ba'ad artzenu, וממשלתה הרק את ברכתך על הארץ הזאת ועל כל שרי המדינה הזאת העוסקים בצורכי ציבור באמונה. הורם מחוקי תורתך הבינם משפטי צדך למען לא יסורו מארצנו שלום ושלווה עושר וחופש כל הימים. אנא יא אלוהי הרוחות לכל בשר. הערה רוחך על כל תושבי ארצנו, ותא בין בני האומות והאמונות השונות השוכנים בה אהבה ואחווה, שלום ורעות, ויעקור מליבם כל שנאה ואיבה, קנאה, תחרות, למלאות מסע נפש בניה מתפארים לכבודה, והמשתוקקים לראות האור לכל הגויים. וכן יהי רצון מלפניך שתהא ארצנו ברכה לכל יושבי תבל, ותשרה ביניהם רעות וחירות, וקיים במהרה חזון נביאך. לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, ולא ילמדו עוד מלחמה, ונאמר אמן. Except for you guys back there.
Tefillah b'hatzlahal, Ozzy Green.
It's going to be a very hard act to follow Reformed Rabbi Bruce. With all apologies to Rabbi Eliak, I went to Rambam for the first 4 years. If I would have gone to Flatbush, I would have had a much better Israeli Hebrew accent, so blame all this on Rambam. We'll talk about that later. Plus, my wife lost my glasses. Misha Be'erach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, who yivarech et chayolei tzvah Haganah Yisrael, ha'omdim al mishma artzenu, v'arei Eloheinu mikvol ha'levanon ve'ad midbar Mitzrayim, v'min hayam hagadol ad levo ha'arava, v'yavesha v'avir u'vayam. Yitein Adonai et oivenu ha'kamim aleinu, nigafim lifneihem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishmor Yatzil et Chayolenu Mikol Tzara v'Simcha Mikol Nega Makala Yishlach Bracha v'Atzlaka B'Kol Ma'aseh Yidayim Yidabir Soleinu Klafteyim Yatrein V'Keter Yeshua V'Ateret Nitzavon Yukuyam V'Hem HaKatuv Ki Hashem Eloheinu Ha'olech Imachem Lilachem Lachem Ima Yevechem, Loshi Etchem, V'Nomar. I want to make a special thank you, acknowledgement to several of our classmates. I hope I get all the names. Sherry Lipka, Esther Levine, and David David Binder from the old days, who made the effort to join us. Some of us who ended up in Washington in a non-traditional type of profession, in my case, want to thank those of us from our class who made Aliyah, who helped me for 40 years trying to explain American Middle East foreign policy to a hostile State Department in a volatile and hostile Middle East. So I want to thank our classmates who made Aliyah over the years.
At this time, prior to saying Kel Malay, I wanted to ask Ronnie Ness to come up and say a Bittul Tehillim for us.
He said Ronnie Ness, and I had to look around to see where she was.
Shir Hamalot LeDavid, Samachti Ba'omrim Li, Beit Adonai Nelech, Omdot HaYuraglenu B'Sharayach Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim Habniyah, Ki'ir Shechubra La Yachtav, Shamalu Shvatim Shivtei Yah, Edut Li-Yisrael, Lahodot L'Shem Adonai, Ki Shama Yashvu Hisot L'Mishpat, Hisot L'Beit David, Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim, Yishlayu Avaya, Hi Shalom B'Chelech, Shavar B'Amratayach, Laman Achai V'Rei, Adavar Na Shalom B'Ai, Laman Beit Adonai Eloheinu Avav Shat Tova.
At this time, one of our trio is going to come and recite the Kel Malay for the 6 of us that are no longer with us. Ani Yom Atmon.
Before I say the El Malay, I'd like to say a few things. But you can sit down for 1 minute. When I begin El Malay, I'll ask you to stand up. Edmund Bitesh, who was a friend of mine when I met him first in high school, we were freshmen. I'd been thrown out of class and thrown out of the class for the day because my pants were very, very tight. And those of you who are classmates know that my pants were very tight. It was something called tzniut, which is modesty. And I was thrown out and I was sent home for the day. Edmund Bitesh was very sympathetic to me. And he had a brother, I remember, and those of you who know Edmund Bitesh had a brother who was very, very overweight. And the following day, Edmund came in with a pair of his brother's pants that were tremendous. And Edmund was very, very thin and narrow. And he walked around the entire day in my support with the pants on him with a rope right around his waist to show if you want to wear baggy pants, this is what baggy pants look like. So that's what I remember about Edmund Bitesh. My very good friend Michael Hoffert, those of you who came late to class sometimes, could hear his voice and my voice, as well as Lauren Persky's voice, resonating through the halls of the yeshiva. We would come in 5-10 minutes late sometimes, but we would continue to sing whatever a cappella songs we had to. And we did. We came in late every day, all 3 of us. I always had to sing lead because I became confused doing harmony. So the only thing I ever sang was lead because I just couldn't concentrate too much. But in memory of all of those, would everybody please rise for the El Malay? El Malay Rachamim Shochim Bamromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Al Kanfei Hashchina B'Ma'alot Kedoshim U'Tohorim Kezohar Harakia Masirim Et Nishmot Chaverenu Eliyahu Bitesh Yechiel Block Chaya Goldberg Chaya Gottlieb Moshe Radinsky, Menachem Hoffert, שאנחנו מתפללים בעד הזכרת נשמותיהם, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם, לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם, אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם, ונאמר אמן.
Amen. Sit down, not finished, we have a way to go yet. Donnie, come on. Brooklyn Borough President and the representative from the Yeshiva of Flatbush Council District were supposed to be here, but unfortunately they have to work. Well, that's what they said. But we do have proclamations from them, and the proclamation from the Brooklyn Borough President, I'm honored to ask the Yeshiva of Flatbush President, Rabbi Frastai, to read it for us.
I will read the proclamation issued by the Brooklyn Borough President. I will start off, though, by first starting with a special thanks to Barry, who brought a tremendous passion and sense of purpose in bringing us all here today. I can't help but comment right off the top of how impressed I am with the level of spoken Hebrew in this room. It is a tradition that continues in the yeshiva. It is part of the brand, so to speak. Ivrit B'Ivrit continues to be taught, and it's just such a pleasure to see that at a 50-year reunion, the amount of Hebrew that is spoken in this room. We were a leader at the time, and continue to be a leader in pedagogy as it relates to Hebrew, Judaic studies, and secular studies in one building. It's a credit and testament to all of you that the yeshiva is what it is today. And certainly, Rabbi Eliyahu. So notwithstanding the state of politics in this country, we were able to get proclamations that vary with his passion from 3 different elected representatives. I'll start off with that from the borough president. Whereas, it is a time-honored Brooklyn tradition to recognize those individuals and organizations that demonstrate an outstanding commitment to promoting excellence and providing outstanding services and support to local residents and those in need. It is therefore fitting that we join in acknowledgement of their special events and occasions. And whereas all of Brooklyn joins together the Yeshiva of Flatbush to recognize and honor the Yeshiva of Flatbush High School class of 1966 for its outstanding achievements and contributions to our communities. And whereas, on behalf of all Brooklynites, I salute the Yeshiva of Flatbush High School class of 1966 for continuing the tradition and importance of Jewish American education and for providing services to a myriad of communities throughout the world, especially in Brooklyn. I applaud them for their involvement in professional and communal activities for the last 50 years, including the student struggle for Soviet Jewry and equal rights for women, and for being actively involved with their local religious institutions and synagogues. I commend the Yeshiva of Flatbush High School class of 1966 for upholding the values and philosophy of the Yeshiva of Flatbush, and for contributing toward the well-being and cultural fabric of our great borough. And I thank everyone for all that they have done to touch and improve the lives of many, helping to move our communities forward as one Brooklyn. Now therefore, I, Eric L. Adams, President of the Borough of Brooklyn, do hereby proclaim May 15th, 2016, Yeshiva of Flatbush High School Class of 1966 Day in Brooklyn, USA.
Thank you so much. The Honorable David Greenfield also sent us a proclamation. And although I don't know of any councilmen or councilwomen in our class, we do have our class president. So I'd like Dennis to please read the proclamation from.
It's,
Quiet, please.
it's very long, I'm sorry. Can I do it like I'm davening?
Yes.
Service of the communities, Amen. The Council of the City of New York proclaims, despite the fact that some of the graduates of this class are Republican, I'm sorry. It's not there. We particularly, whereas service to our communities, our cities, and our country is among the most important virtues a student can learn in the course of his or her education, and whereas the Yeshiva of Flatbush High School has a long tradition of encouraging its students, the importance of service to their communities is evidenced by the life of Dr. Joel Braverman, the school's founder who selflessly and tirelessly advocated for better educational opportunities for Jewish children, and whereas the Yeshiva of Flatbush High School has produced thousands of graduates who have played important roles in serving their communities, including 2 Nobel Prize recipients, 3 Israel Prize recipients, and 1 alumnus who is currently serving on the Israeli Supreme Court. And whereas the Yeshiva of Flatbush High School class of 1966 comprises individuals who have been leaders in their fields throughout the city and the country, including prominent surgeons, physicians, lawyers, accountants, therapists, social workers, teachers, and education workers, mental health professionals, writers, and rabbis, as well as a leading radio personality. I swear it's in there. I was going to add that as a joke.
4 years watching this guy learn Russian under the table.
That's it.
I had to put that in.
That cracks me up. And whereas all of the members of the class of 1966 have gone on to live lives of extraordinary and exemplary service, greatly contributing to every community in which they live, be it known that I, David G. Greenfield, council member of the 44th District, gratefully honor the Yeshiva of Flatbush High School class of 1966 in celebration of congratulations, their 50th anniversary and their outstanding service and enduring contributions to New York City and the nation. Signed this 15th day of May in the year 2016, David G. Greenfield, council member, 44th District, Brooklyn. Did you get the radio personality?
We have one more proclamation, then we're going to hear from some of our graduates. So please bear with us. I've only known this gentleman since 1955, 56. Didn't only know him in the yeshiva, but also in the Young Israel where we davened. And it's my honor to ask David Krisher to come and read the message from Charles Schumer. David was very well prepared for this.
Okay. It's a good thing it's in English. I'm not one of those translated. Dear friends, Mazel Tov. Please accept my warmest greetings and sincerest congratulations as you gather for the Yeshiva of Flatbush's 50th anniversary of the graduating class of 1966. I am grateful for the opportunity to acknowledge the great work of the Yeshiva of Flatbush, its leadership, staff, and tonight's honorees on this momentous occasion. Tonight's honorees?
Yes.
Okay,
Us.
Us. That's going to be you and me. Since 1927, the Yeshiva of Flatbush has been committed to encourage academic excellence and promote a stable family structure that leads our young people to be religiously and socially astute in today's world. It gives me great pleasure to acknowledge the Yeshiva of Flatbush for its dedication to the Jewish faith and Brooklyn community to educate our younger generations. I applaud the Yeshiva's commitment to providing our future leaders of this thriving community with a quality education and the moral and social teachings needed to become productive members of our society. With your support, leadership, and guidance, the Yeshiva of Flatbush will continue to prosper and flourish as an institution of educational distinction. I am honored to join all gathered here this evening to recognize this inspirational class that has produced leaders in medicine, education, business, the arts, the legal profession, finance, entertainment, mental and physical health, and of course, radio and other prestigious fields. Their dedication and commitment to the Yeshiva of Flatbush and the Brooklyn community, as well as to all the communities in which all graduates reside and work, is motivation to continue to honor positive role models in the educational and religious communities. Again, congratulations, and on behalf of all New Yorkers, I thank you for your hard work and dedication to our youth. I know that the Yeshiva of Flatbush will continue to serve the Brooklyn community for many years to come. Best wishes for a wonderful evening. Sincerely, Charles Schumer, U.S. Senator.
In order to continue the generations, I've asked two leaders of the school, Danielle Ashkenazi, who's the Senior Council President, and Michelle Harari, the President of the SGO, to address us. A few words about what's going on in the school and their opinions and their impressions of how wonderful the school continues to be. Ladies, whoever's first.
Hi everyone. So I remember my freshman orientation. I was sitting in the audience and I heard a teacher speaking about the school. And she constantly said, "That's Flatbush." I was listening to her stories about how amazing the school was, and I thought to myself, Flatbush can't possibly be the school that she's raving about. I soon discovered that it is. Not just the academics, those are incredible, but Flatbush is the school that it is because of what the students learn outside of the classroom. I came into school and I was overwhelmed with the abundance of options. Clubs to join, internships to take, sports to play. And during all this, I found myself going back to the speech from orientation. And I was amazed. That's Flatbush. I don't really know what Flatbush was like in your days, and I'm sure it's a very different place now. But some things are the same, like the Hebrew play and the Free Fibri. But most things are different, like learning with iPads and the new gym. But I know what Flatbush is like in my days, and I can tell you about that. It's a school that gives their students their all. The amount of opportunities I heard during my high school career is unbelievable. I worked with a girl who was in charge of the Monmouth watershed, and I wrote her a report about knotweeds. Most teenagers don't even know what knotweeds are or how a watershed works. I obtained a leadership position, and I got to plan incredible events for the student body. I learned how to organize and execute events. And I know that wherever I end up, I know that it will be because of what Flatbush taught me and what I experienced there. Years will go by and students will change, but one thing will always stay the same. The commitment Flatbush has to their students, to education, and to exceeding expectations. And that's Flatbush.
I'll try to keep things short. Hello everyone, thank you, it's an honor. So, as Danielle said, obviously I'm not sure what Flatbush was like back in '66, but I can imagine some things that remain the same and some things that have changed. For instance, the pool is gone. I was not sad. I'll take that as sarcasm. Oh, wow. So some things are different. The classes are categorized differently, and unfortunately, the school is mainly Sephardi. Sorry, everyone. However, I can imagine some things that did remain the same. For instance, the decorum, the double Gemara, Talmud, and the school spirit. And while as an incoming freshman, I was as mentally and physically prepared as I could possibly be, I was not prepared for this intangible and indescribable feeling residing within me as a graduating senior. I was not prepared to rise up to positions of leadership as I had done. I had not anticipated feeling such school spirit that I felt like the mascot myself, and I had not known I would be looking for excuses to come back to school even once it finished. And yet, here I am. Here I am standing before you as I see my future self in all of you. I hope that's okay. I'm seeing some quality traits, so we're okay. We're doing okay. Unless you still have hair, we're good. We're good. So I see myself attending these reunions, and it puts me back in the high school mentality and the same head where the world is ours to conquer. And us teenagers, we think we're unstoppable and everything is a conquest and how unbelievable it is. And basically the world's our playground. You know, we don't want to grow up out of that. And I see myself growing up and looking at my past self. It's an interesting perspective, seeing my future self looking back at my past self. But so I see myself and I'm smiling not because life didn't pan out the way I had planned or because it had panned out the way I had planned, but because the feeling of excitement and nervousness is rushing through me as it had been as I was a senior going through high school. And that is something, it's incredible to just experience that high school mentality once again. So I guess that's just something to take away, that the conquests are never over and the world is always yours to conquer. There's a family, a career, a whole lifestyle to conquer, and for me, this speech is just the start. So, thank you.
Yay!
I'd like to ask Susan Berger-Kroshak, who's in charge of the alumni office, and with whom I've worked very, very closely over the last 6-7 months, to a few words about the Alumni Association and about Flatbush. Also a Flatbush graduate, only a few years ago. Susan, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Berger-Kroshak. I work in the alumni office. I know a bunch of people were looking at me like, do I remember you from 50 years ago? I had my 25th reunion, and I hope to have at my 50th reunion such a wonderful turnout. It's amazing to see everyone here have an unbreakable bond with each other and the connection that you have with the yeshiva as well. So it's really something remarkable. It's a milestone really to cherish. I'm happy to be here. I want to thank Barry Mandel, who really pulled it off. I have to say his passion for doing the reunion it couldn't be matched. I want to thank Robert Frasta, you heard from the president, and of course Rabbi Eliach. And Michelle and Danielle for speaking. And I'll make it short and sweet. I just want to make sure that everyone stays in touch with each other, with the yeshiva. I know Barry made bags for everyone to go home with. So you can all be in touch with the alumni office, alumni@flatbush.org. So, and that's it really. So, and I look forward to your continued involvement. And thank you everyone for coming.
Mr. Frasta mentioned the eloquence of some of us that still speak Hebrew, so I hope I will not blow it. לפני כ-4-5 חודשים ביקרתי עם רב אליח בדירה שלו כאן במנהטן, ודיברנו כשעתיים על הישיבה ועל אורח חייו. הוא נתן לי את הספר שלו, עבר שלו עבר, זיכרונות של ירושלמי, ודיברנו על חייו קצת, איך הוא לפעמים היה נוסע לישיבה 3 פעמים או 2 פעמים בשבוע, בבית ספר תיכון, בית ספר עממי, וזה היה באמת תענוג לי לדבר איתו, לשמוע את קולו, והוא שאל אותי, הוא אמר לי שכאשר הוא כתב את הספר שלו, הוא לא הכניס בתוך הספר את השנים מ-53, רק 53? רק דיבר על ארץ ישראל, ולא על פלטבוש ולא על מסד. והיו לו עוד כ-25 דפים שלא הוכנסו לספר שלו. הוא שאל אותי, אולי אתה תרצה לתרגם את הספר לאנגלית. אמרתי לו, רב אליח, עכשיו אני יודע מה שאני עושה מהתחלה מ-16 במאי. ואני מאוד שמח לראות את כולכם, מאוד שמח לראות את הרב אליח, וביקשתי שהוא ידבר אלינו כמה רגעים, מה שהוא רוצה, ואני מקווה שהוא ידבר בעברית, יותר קל לו לדבר משדיברתי, וזה באמת תענוג לכולנו שהוא כאן, ובבקשה, הרב אליח.
אני עדיין מורה, כשהתלמידים מדברים, המורה שותק. ידידיי, חבריי ותלמידיי יותר מכולם. קשה לא להזכיר פה שמות, אבל במשך השנים שמענו גם קצת קשר וידידות, אנשים כמו דניס פרגר, טולושקין, אני שמח שהם פה איתנו, ויש עוד הרבה תלמידים חשובים, אבל לוקח לי זמן כדי לזכור. דבר אחד אני זוכר כל יום, לשכוח. אחד מהלא נייס שאל אותי שאלה שאני תמיד מפחד ממנה. אתה מכיר אותי? אתה זוכר אותי? אז אני אמרתי, אני אספר סיפור במקום לענות תשובה. היה פרופסור אבי זוהר שמו היה, שהיה פרופסור באוניברסיטה בירושלים. והוא היה מפוזר, an absent-minded professor. הוא בא הביתה לבית הכרם, הוא שכח איפה הוא גר. הוא אומר, אני מתבייש לבוא אל האנשים שמכירים אותי, ואני אשאל איפה אני גר. אני אשאל ילד קטן, אני אשאל אותו, איפה גר כאן פרופסור אבי זוהר? אז הוא ניגש על פרופסור אבי זוהר ושואל אותו לילד, אתה יודע איפה גר פה פרופסור אבי זוהר? הוא אומר, אבא, שכחת. לאחר 50 שנה יובלו לכם. סיימתם את ישיבת פלטבוש, סיימתם אוניברסיטאות, התחתנתם, גידלתם משפחה, ואתה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבט אחים גם יחד.
ויחות.
אנו נפגשים במסגרת הישיבה, שהיא הייתה המשכן ושם הקרינה המנורה על שני לוחות הברית את תורת ישראל, אהבת ישראל, ציונות ואנושות, humanity. כיום, לדאבוננו, ברוב האוניברסיטאות באמריקה ובעולם כולו שוכנים נחשים מלאי שנאה נגד המדינה הקטנה. קשה למצוא אותה במפה בכלל כאשר מסתכלים על מפה. מלאי שנאה נגד המדינה הקטנה. אתם שסיימתם ושמעתם וטעמתם את טעם החיים, אתם המעט והמיעוט בעמנו שיש להם שייכות למדינת ישראל, אהבת ישראל, תורת ישראל. אתם ממשיכי על שלשלת של אלפי שנה במסורת ישראל, ושומרים שנצח ישראל לא ישקר. שינויים עצומים חלו בעולם, החל מהספוטניק ועד מכונית הנוסעת בלא נהג, הספקלריה לעולם שעבדה מנהיגיה. גם בכלכלה חלו מהפכות, ונתחדשו מושגים ומונחים. במקום שהיה פעם מיליונר, כיום הוא ביליונר. כי המיליונר אינו רק אדם קרוב, אלא הוא קרוב יותר לעוני. הספריות מאבדות את יוקרתן, בלחיצת כפתור אתה בונה ספרייה, ומוחו של אדם יוצא מעבדות לחירות, והגואל נעשה קול של שבת. שמעו לך בעת צרה. אנחנו בישיבה עדיין מלמדים תורה, תלמוד בעברית. השאלה היא האם אנחנו מפגרים. מי שלא ראה את האייפד מונח על ברכי התלמידים בשעת ויכוח תלמודי על כזית, לא ראה מתמיד מימיו. הוא עולה על מלאך שיש לו רק שליחות אחת, ואילו תלמידי היום יודעים לעשות שתי שליחויות בבת אחת. וגם העברית, ברוב הישיבות היום נעלמה העברית. לאן היא הלכה? אמר לי פעם הרב מסקוביץ שבהרבה ישיבות העברית כל כך הצליחה עד שהחליטה לעלות לארץ. השאלה היא מי מפגר, העולם הגדול או ישיבת פלטבוש. התורה מספרת לנו בפרשת בראשית על התפתחות הציביליזציה. קין היה עיקר הפארמר, הבל היה רועה צאן, חנוך בנו של קין בנה עיר, יובל המציא את המוזיקה, תובל קין היה לוטש נחושת, אינדסטרי, כמעט התפתחות מודרנית של המאה ה-21 בטכנולוגיה, במוזיקה, בתעשייה, בחקלאות. המעיין בתורה אבל מוצא כאן איך העולם מתקדם מבחינה טכנולוגית. אנחנו כולנו שמחים על ההתפתחות הזאת, אבל עיון נוסף באותה פרשה מגלה שבאותו זמן שהטכנולוגיה התפתחה והגיעה לממדים עצומים, המוסר, האתיקה, ההתנהגות של החברה הולכת ויורדת. קין הורג את הבל, למך הורג ומחבר שיר על הרצח. העולם נהיה מלא חמאס וגזל עד שמגיעים למבול. אם כן, הטכנולוגיה המתקדמת עד לשיאים אינה תורמת הרבה אם אין התקדמות במוסר באותו זמן. וזוהי הוראה מוסרית בספר בראשית, ולא כולם גילו את הסוד הגדול הזה. ישיבת פלטבוש מנסה לאחד, למזג את הטכנולוגיה עם המוסר. ההשקפה היא תורה ומצוות, תורה ודרך ארץ. שניהם יחד מסוגלים להביא את הגאולה, אבל זה בלא זה יכול להביא מדבר שממה. זה היה החזון והחלום של דוקטור ברוורמן, כאשר ייסד את הישיבה ב-1927, וגם לכם החזון והחלום. אבל בשעה שיש חלום ספוטניקי גדול כזה, אסור לישון. אתם היושבים כאן היום הוכחה שיש תקווה ולא אבדה תקוותנו. שלום והצלחה.
Okay, we have a few more speakers from our class. Please try to maintain your decorum for a few more minutes. As I told Dennis a few minutes ago, about 10 days ago I called his radio station, and it was pretty funny because I was put on hold, as we always are, and he starts to relate the story about whether it's positive or negative, what's going to happen today, and then he mentions my name, wasn't necessary, talks about going to the city, which only Brooklynites know what the city is. People from Chicago, Los Angeles have no idea what the city is, it means Manhattan. But he didn't know that I was listening to the whole time because I was on hold waiting to speak to him. Despite the fact that I told his program manager that I am a classmate of Dennis's, hopefully we'll get you on. An hour later, 5 after 2, I said I hung up. That was it. You can listen to Dennis on 970 The Answer, Monday through Friday, noon to 2 o'clock. And it's a pleasure to speak to us very briefly, since he spoke to us already, our senior class president, Dennis Prager.
This is actually, believe it or not, one of the hardest things I've ever been asked to do because I'm very touched, very emotionally moved. I've written more notes for this 4 minutes than I do for most of my hour-long lectures that I give around America, because there's so many specific things I wanted to say. First, of course, I do want to just say a thank you to Barry Mandel, and I know you do. You know, we learned that Tzaddik stands for, Tzibur stands for Tzaddik Benoni V'Rasha. He's one of the Tzaddikim of this Tzibur, so I'm very touched. Rabbi Eliach had a very deep impact on my life, and to see him in robust health is a wonderful thing for me personally. I will tell you a very personal thing, and I wrote it in the brochure that I guess we're getting for those of us who wrote statements. And there's no reason that I would say it other than it being true, and it may even seem almost unbelievable to you. I have received a lot of honors in my life. And, you know, it's been for all of us a long life already. But I want you to know that you're electing me senior class president. Believe it or not, I don't think I've ever received a more important honor in my life. And there's a very good reason for that. And that is, you're my peers. And if I could have a positive reception from my peers, to that extent, that made a big deal in my mind, because I certainly I didn't do it through scholastic excellence. You will get a kick out of the fact that I tell audiences around the world, actually, that when the subject comes up, don't worry if your kid isn't doing well. I graduated in the top 80% of my high school. The best part, you're that high. The best part of saying that for me is I wait. It doesn't sound so terrible if you say top 80%. So I don't say a word until somebody starts to laugh, then some second person starts to laugh, and then finally everybody gets it. It's really the bottom 20th. But that is the way it was, and nevertheless it worked out. And I got to take to the prom the salutatorian, even though I was in the C class. By the way, does Flatbush still have a prom? Secret. Well, anyway, I took Sheila Steinberg to the prom. It is great to see her here. Flatbush gave me so much that I can only begin to touch on it because of the time frame. First of all, of course, it gave me my lifelong friend Joseph Telushkin, which just alone would have been worth it for me. And I was, to be honest, I kept my wife, who's here, as a living witness. I said, I pray Mark Frank comes. I pray Mark Frank comes. So Mark is here, right? Mark is here. Mark and I would go to every Rangers Sunday night game in Madison Square Garden, every single one. And I would announce the entire game. And he was the greatest audience I could possibly have. I would talk into my fist the entire time, describing what I was seeing happening on the ice. And it was really the beginning of my broadcast career. I was doing Ranger games with Mark Frank. I'm sorry?
Your ratings were low.
My ratings were low, yes. I'm very enthusiastic. I learned at Flatbush that Judaism could live in the modern world with it and change it and be with it. That was the greatest lesson of all. I was not a great student, but a lot obviously permeated me. In fact, I even stayed to study with Rabbi Elach and what he called the Metivtai afterwards. I went another year studying there. But it was a very powerful thing to learn. And by the way, in this regard, I know the girls here who are you still at the school? Are you your students there? Did you know that we had cheerleaders? Boosters. Okay. No, we had boosters and cheerleaders. No, we had both. I just want to say, it went. I'm sorry. Okay, fine. I just want to say, it was a great thing to see that you could study Torah and have cheerleaders. Let me give you two more examples, and then I wrote far more notes than we have time. I just want to thank every one of you who joined the Hendrick Society, my Stuffed Frog Society that I started. Some of you still have your card. I charge 35 cents. Milton Goldman is here. He helped with the Mimeo machine to get the issues out. And I just want to tell you, let's see, I'll give you one more anecdote, two more anecdotes and I'm done, that I tell audiences, Jews, non-Jews, it doesn't matter, it's that they love it. I made the Flatbush basketball team in my sophomore year. There was only one reason for that, and that is my height. I had no talent whatsoever. I hated basketball, and I had no talent for it. It's a terrible combination. Do you know what happened? The last day of when the last cuts were made, the coach, who was somewhat of a misanthrope, announced the following. He said, "Boys, this is going to be a very bad year for Flatbush." Which, by the way, turned out right. It was the worst year in Flatbush basketball history. And he said, and I can tell you why. We really scraped the bottom of the barrel. Prager made the team. And I remember I say this to audiences all the time, I remember this as clearly as it was yesterday, my internal reaction. One, this man is a scumbag. But the other was, he is 100% right. And that ability in life to know even when bad people say truth has stood me well. And finally, I'll just tell you one cute line. I won't say the teacher because I learned very strongly, God bless Flatbush, about the laws of Lashon Hara. No, I did. In fact, I banned on my show. I banned all the jokes about Monica Lewinsky because I said she's created in God's image too. And I explained why. I said I learned in my high school that you don't humiliate people publicly. So I'm not going to tell you the name of the teacher. It's not important. I raised my hand because I was very bored. I remember we were studying Bigdei Kohanim. Bigdei the Kohen, what the Kohen Agadol wore, which had no interest to me whatsoever. So that's when I read the New York Times or something Russian under the desk. I raised my hand and I said, of course, in Hebrew, I said to him, I know we're studying about this. May I just ask you, please, it always concerns me, do you have any idea what happens in Olam Haba? She was taken aback, but he said, all right, Prager, in Olam Haba, we study Torah for eternity. And I'll never forget thinking, is there an alternative? So the positive and everything else, the yeshiva, like for all of you, it formed our life. Thanks for having me.
The next individuals will speak a lot shorter. One of the loveliest young ladies that were in our class. She was a graduate of the Bialik School, and it's really an honor and a pleasure to ask Vivian Halfon to come and say a few words.
Oh, thank you. And on behalf of all of us again, thank too many times for his enthusiasm and perseverance. Several years ago, shortly before my son's marriage, he asked me to select a song for a mother-son dance at the wedding. After a lot of thinking, listening to vinyl records, you remember those, and watching YouTube videos, I narrowed it down to two choices: Sunrise Sunset from Fiddler on the Roof and Forever Young, sung by Bob Dylan. I thought that the former captured some of the bittersweet sentiment of that occasion. My son, the more youthful and sunny outlook, chose the latter. As at this 50th reunion class, I feel that we have arrived at a sunrise-sunset moment. Sunrise, sunset, swiftly fly the years, one season following another, laden with happiness and tears. I'm shocked by how quickly the years have passed. It is sad to remember family and classmates who are no longer with us. I'm grateful to have made it to this milestone. Flatbush was several lifetimes ago. I appreciate our committed and inspiring teachers in both the secular and Hebrew education that I received, which strengthened my Jewish identity and my connection to Eretz Yisrael. In college, I studied sociology, psychology, and education, but several years after graduating from Yale, I went back and took pre-med courses and ended up at NYU Medical School, where I met my husband, David. He and I moved to Boston for our postgraduate training in psychiatry, and after that had two children, one of whom is a doctor and one a lawyer. While I've made the transition from Brooklyn to Brookline, I still have a strong New York identity, despite having embraced the Boston Red Sox. Flatbush was also nurturing, largely as a result of my relationship with many of you. Some of my favorite memories include chatting on the phone for hours with Brenda, schmoozing with Rena and Geula and Ruthie from the neighborhood, riding the Rogers Avenue bus with Mimi, working on the yearbook with Jeff, and in the postgraduate years, I remember a wonderful trip to Israel and Europe with Evie and Geula, and Evie's art expertise was impressive even then and greatly enhanced my experience. The Flatbush classmate whom I saw most recently was Dennis. By chance, we were on the same cruise, and it was fun to reminisce and look back at the Flatbush years. And from the earlier Bialik years, greetings to Brian, Eloise, and Larry. Although gathering together underscores the weight of 50 years gone by, it is also uplifting and affirming. While we are older, hopefully wiser, and have evolved, I believe that our younger selves are still at the core of who we are today. So coming together at our reunion is a touching way to simultaneously be both in the present and in our youthful past. And I'd like to close with the words of one of the chachams of our ages, Bob Dylan. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and have others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. And may you stay forever young.
There is an adage, you can take the kid out of Brooklyn, but you can't take Brooklyn out of the kid. In the case of the next speaker, you can take the kid out of Brooklyn, but the grandchildren force it to come back to Brooklyn. Sam Gindy promised no more than a minute or two. Let's see if he holds to his word.
I've been looking forward to this reunion from first hearing from Barry over 1 year ago. Firstly, I would like to thank Barry for his dedication and tireless efforts in bringing as many of the class together for our 50th reunion. As for me personally, when graduating Maggid David Yeshiva in 1962, the Sephardic community did not have a yeshiva high school. Fortunately, my parents believed in the importance of education and had the foresight and vision to send me to Flatbush Yeshiva High School to continue my Hebrew education. Along with my fellow classmates, Dr. Eddie Gindy, Sam Mahana, A.B. Hesses, Melvin Galuk, and Abe Massery, we embarked on this new adventure, meeting students from different yeshivas and different backgrounds. The 4 years spent together still have an impact on my life today. I still recall events, big and small, which occurred during the 4 years we spent at the yeshiva. I will never forget November 22nd, 1963, when we were sophomores in the original building on East 10th Street, and the announcement came over the loudspeaker that President Kennedy had been shot. On the other hand, I remember when we all cut class to watch Lou Alcindor, today known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, from Power Memorial scrimmage in the new gym on 16th Street, thanks to Coach Bernie Kersler. In addition, Flatbush offered many social functions, including dances and basketball games. How about the lunch program? You all remember the mock hamburgers and fish cakes? I remember going to Michael Exelbert's house in Manhattan Beach and listening to records such as Runaway by Del Shannon. My first introduction to Borough Park was thanks to Lois Love and the Hirsch twins. Yesterday, on the way to my son's house for lunch, I walked down East 8th Street between J and K, passing Lieber Stern and Karen Rosenfeld's houses, and what fun memories that brought back. Karen, do you remember? Do you remember when you brought me 2 records? Do you remember the name of the 2 records? I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles and Run Around Sue by Dion. I'll skip a little bit. The strange thing is that after raising our family in New Jersey for 32 years, my wife Lynn and I are back where we started in Brooklyn. We now live just a few blocks from the yeshiva and get back there quite often, as we have 8 grandchildren currently attending Flatbush Elementary School. Finally, the question of the day is, what is Barry going to do after this? I don't think we should wait another 25 years to get together. I think Barry should start planning right now for our 60th reunion in 10 years. Great seeing everybody again. Thank you very much.
She's the author of the Santa Cruz Agata. There you are. She's a fellow parishioner with me, the Yeshiva of Flatbush for many, many years. Karen Rosenfeld, now known as Karen Rokart. Please come on.
This is like, I don't know about anyone else's thing, but I know, just like Dennis, I've probably written 20,000 words, and I couldn't write it in the end. So there you go. I was asked by Barry 2 things. Why are you going to this reunion? And what did you get out of Flatbush? So it's really clear. I came and I've been so enthusiastic because I'm aware from where I live. I live in another planet. And where I live, people don't talk like we talk. So whenever I get together with anyone from a yeshiva, and certainly from Flatbush, it's like our patterns of speech and our minds go here and here and here and there. Coming back, it's like, oh, my heart gets warm. So that's why I had to come and to see your faces. And I was like, ooh. So what did I get from Flatbush? That was really hard because it was so easy to say, this I didn't get from Flatbush and that I didn't get, or this upset me and that upset me. So this is what I have to say. Thank you, Barry, for doing this. Thank you, Rabbi Eliach, for putting up with me, a challenging child. Thank you, Mr. Brafman, Zichrono Livracha, for creating this modern Orthodox Zionist school that made me a Zionist and a Jew, still to this day, no matter what else is going on in Berkeley. Let's see. When boys and girls studied together, we danced together, we sang together. What else? We wore shorts at gym and Lag BaOmer. And I'm so glad Arlene showed up. We had girl boosters, which Arlene was the captain. And we had cheerleaders, which this Jewish renewal Jew, was one of the captains, and my co-captain is Lubavitch. So it's like, this away. So I learned leadership, and I learned promotion, which have really held me to this day. I love saying this, as I lead my Jewish renewal congregation on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I've done Kiruv work, which is, we have Kiruv also in the conservative world and in the reform world and the renewal world. And a lovely foundation gave me money to do whatever I wanted to bring Jews to Judaism. It was really a joy. I learned courage because some of you here will remember this, and some of you came up to me and reminded me. I learned courage because at the age of 9 or 10, I had to learn to look up to Mr. Braverman and say, why don't you pick on someone your own size? So it's like, if you can make it there, if you can say it there, you can say it anywhere. And I really, I learned to have limited respect for authority, and I learned that Judaism can evolve, and I'm very grateful for the incredible education I got, which has allowed me to play with Judaism and create some of my own version. So let's see, I learned, I've spoken to many people from our class and many people from other classes, and one of the first things that comes up is, I was in the B class, or I was in the A class, or I was in the C class. And the A class was very competitive, and it was so competitive. The B class, we got to sit around, but I'm only leading the B class life. And the C and the D classes, we were called the dummy classes. Dennis and Joseph, and certainly Dennis for sure, for boys, I get such joy when I get to say, yes, I sat in the dummy class at Flatbush with Dennis Prager, of course, behind me. And then people always say, if you and Dennis were in the dummy class, what was the rest of your school like? And I'm like, we were fabulous. We were absolutely, and we are. I'm seeing now, it's like, we are fabulous. So what else? So labels don't matter. I'm proud to have been in the dummy class. I found out, it was a shock, it was a real shock. When I went out and found out, people thought I was bright. So it was like, whoa, what else did I get? I have to publicly say a name that probably has not been said for many, many years. Some of you may remember Miss Weiner. I know, David, you remember Miss Weiner. Anna Weiner changed my life in 5th, 6th grade because she really took hold of me and saw that I wasn't only a problem child, that maybe I had a little potential. And she taught me that curiosity is a good thing, which was not a norm in Flatbush. She taught me that having an adventurous spirit is to be nurtured. And she taught me that I can always find answers in books and in research. So that unbeknownst to a lot of you, while Dennis was sitting there studying Russian or, reading the books like, Russia in the 14th century and its relationship to China out in Timbuktu, I was reading fiction, and I had a thing, I had to read 10,000 pages a year, and I kept the names of the books, the authors, the pages, and thank God. So finally, and I always think of Arlene when I say this, I do, because I feel like I became a feminist in the best sense of the word. And part of it was Arlene and I used to be invited to lead the Hatikva and Star Spangled Banners at assemblies, and to sing the Hanerot Halalu before Hanukkah. And so we were put up front, but I remember I asked my mother, I was 7 years old, and I'd been singing up front with Mr. Yardeni's choir, and we'd be pouring out our voices and our hearts, and I said, Mom, can I lead like Anim Zemirot and Ein Kelohenu? And, you know, like at the end of davening, I assume some of you know. So, so she said, don't be ridiculous. You're a girl. You can't do that. So, so I learned at a very early age that something was different. And then I was ecstatic to learn at an older age that it was my childhood friend Arlene who had brought back the celebration of Rosh Chodesh. And whenever I go to a Rosh Chodesh gathering, I say, you gotta know, it was my childhood friend Arlene Agus who brought this ritual back. So may we all continue to live well, to be well. When you weren't here, I was like,
David Binder, now it's David Ben-Dor, who came all the way from Israel for this occasion. David and I went from the third grade on through high school, and it's a pleasure welcoming you here for a few words.
Why isn't there one?
Because they said it doesn't work. They said it doesn't work.
This is the modern age, digital age.
Can I tell you?
You know, I have to start off with a very personal note. I mean, I have to start off with a personal note. You know, besides the fact of seeing everybody, these are people that we haven't seen since the last time we saw each other was when we were 18 years old at graduation. Then it was goodbye, and some kept up and some didn't keep up. All of a sudden, we're seeing people that we haven't seen for a long time. But you know, my mother still lives in the same house that I grew up in 18th Street between J and K. And so I'm staying in my mother's house in the same room, sleeping in the same bedroom that I grew up in with a woman, with legally. With tuba and everything, Orthodox rabbi in Beersheba and everything. And so I'm just afraid that I'll get up tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, put on a pair of pants and a shirt, and go to school. I'll say it's an commitment. So please remind me that it's really, I mean, it's nice to go back in the past, but you have to get back go back to the future, which is, you know, or the present. Anyway, Barry asked me to write about Israel, you know, to talk about Israel. And I wouldn't have predicted when I was in high school that I would be the one to go to live, of all the people, to go live in Israel. There were many, you know, of our colleagues or our classmates that went to Israel, the year abroad in Israel. I never did any of that, but I remember very well. Which one? I remember when I was a freshman. When I was a freshman in high school, I found myself studying Hebrew with Rabbi Eliyahu. And that was a very formative experience, because then, I remember it was a great class. I really liked it. I mean, I had to look at the Horashal, and it was really a marvelous experience. And that gave me, imbued me with a love of Hebrew. Not religion. I'm not religious, and I never really believed in anything. And I'm not a believer. But it gave me the in Hebrew you say tashdit, the background. So that when I went to college in Rochester, and then I went to medical school in Belgium. And in fact, I met Abe Zarikier. Last time I saw Abe Zarikier was on a flight from Brussels to New York, because he was studying also in Belgium. And all of a sudden I see somebody from high school, you know, on a plane, in a Belgian airplane. But then I went on, when I finished high school, you know, the trouble with, I hate bureaucracy. And the trouble with medical school is that things aren't necessarily in sync. Because if you go to school in the United States, you finish at the end of June and you go into residency. Well, in Belgium, you get your diplomas in August. So you have to undo some, you know, fancy footwork. And most of the Americans did it. Plus, to go back to the States, maybe it's wrong, but even though a lot of doctors in the United States are foreigners, you're somehow branded. You're American graduates and foreign graduates. So here I was not quite ready to go on to residency in the United States. I didn't want to hassle because with the test, so I said, you know Hebrew, go to Israel. And it felt natural. My parents thought didn't know what happened to me. They thought I was nuts. And why are you going? Why are you leaving everything? But that's really what happened. And I met my wife. I wrote everything in the book that you'll read. I met a wonderful woman who was able to cope with me and to compensate for my many manifold faults and try and make me into a mensch. I don't know whether she has or not. But we've had a wonderful life. We have a wonderful life in Israel. Israel is a place. It's not holy. You live, you go to work, you have children, you have the same problems everybody has. In fact, every once in a while, we live in Ashkelon. So the fact that every once in a while there are missile attacks, you cope with it. Look, when I was growing up in Brooklyn, people got stabbed all the time. I don't remember that. In fact, the other day, my mother said, "Do me a favor, go. There's an optician in Avenue M. Get my glasses fixed." So I went into. You couldn't open the door. You had to press a buzzer. In Brooklyn, this is this is in Midwood, around the corner from the high school. I thought things had changed, but I guess things haven't changed to that completely. So it's like, you have to just be careful, you have to have luck, and you have to be, you try, and my wife is into Buddhism and meditation, so you have to be happy, with what you have, and think of the good and all that stuff. So, really, that's the secret to life. And, I've met a number of people who said, I go to Israel 3 times a year, so come to see me. Now you don't have an excuse, but everyone's going to get an email. You have my email, we don't live far from any place, so please come, and I'd love to see anybody who wishes to come. And I'd love to see them again, and lots of luck and simcha and nachas and good health.
Now we have 2 more speakers, so we're going to be brief. This individual is going to make both reunions because Baruch Hashem, she's making Aliyah on August 28th. I emailed her back and I said, look, do me a favor, come back 2 days later on August 30th, and you'll be able to come with me when I go to Israel for the reunion. So please welcome Shira Steinberg.
So, I can't find my speech. It's on my tablet, but I can't find it, which is probably very lucky because I would speak longer if I had my speech. So I'm going to tell you the highlights of it very quickly, and you'll bear with me if it's too short for you like it. When I was in the last year of elementary school at Shalamit, my father registered me in Central High School for very good reasons. He thought it was more religious, and that was important to him. He thought it would be less expensive, and that was important to him. And the third reason is in my notes, and I can't remember. And I decided, in my infinite 12-year-old wisdom and precociousness, that I needed to go to Flatbush. And I had one reason, because Flatbush was excellent. And I wanted an excellent academic experience. So I cried day and night, and day and night, etc., until finally my parents got tired. And one evening, my father came home and said, I spoke to the powers that be at Flatbush, and that's where you're going next year. I never tried that before. I never tried it since with the crying. And in fact, it wasn't a trick. My heart was really broken. I knew that I had to go to Flatbush because Flatbush had an excellent academic reputation. Come to find out that one of the mottos of Flatbush is standard of excellence. So without having read it, I knew it before I got there, I knew it while I was there, and I've known it since. And I spent there's a whole few paragraphs missing here, but I spent the rest of my life trying to do whatever I do in an excellent way. I've had 3 careers, all of them involved in different ways helping people. One was teaching in college, I had students. One was management consulting to corporations. I had big clients. And one was selling real estate, where I had individuals buying their homes, the biggest purchase of their life. And in all of them, I feel that I strove for excellence, and I really helped a lot of people get better service about things that were important to them than they would have otherwise gotten. I didn't get any honors since graduation or awards. I wasn't rich, I wasn't famous, but I just strove for excellence and made a lot of private people happy. Having said that, I found that nothing prepared me for this life. Not school, not my parents, not reading, not studying, not excellence. Nothing really prepared me. I found it very challenging. Marrying, getting divorced, marrying again, not having children, having stepchildren, financial issues. Every inch of the way I found challenging. And I actually had no tragedies in my life, so you can just imagine if I had. So I have the utmost respect for all of you, having made it through the past 50 years and having found your way to this restaurant today. And in closing, I'd like to quote the hip harpist, Deborah Hansen-Conan, who I enjoyed hearing her music for a while. She wrote a birthday song for mature people, and I think even though it's not anyone's birthday, or certainly not everyone's birthday, it's very appropriate. The song goes, "Congratulations, you made it this far. Congratulations for everything you are." Thank you.
Charon Acharon Chaviv. He's been my friend since the 3rd grade, and my constant contact over the last 12, 14 months, along with Ozzie Green. And since his team really stinks in Atlanta, he's now becoming a Met fan. I'd like to welcome Michael Etzelberg.
It's amazing to me, 50 years. For some of us, 58 years, 62 years. I never could count. I was in the C class too. Dennis, let me correct something right now. Our freshman year, Rav Eliach and Rabbi Lieberman and Joel Brockman, in their infinite wisdom, had the D classes. Karen? But that ended in our sophomore year.
I know it. I told
We
you.
only had an A, a B, and 2 C's. So that's consistent, as you know, with life at Flatbush. We had 2 C classes. I'm going to try to do something that's very difficult for me, and that's to capsulate. There are 3 parts of what I'm going to do in my presentation. And the best part, in 1966, when I was put in exile and sent out to Miami, there was just me going out of Miami. In 1970, there were 2 of us in Miami, Lois and myself. Today, I'm happy to tell you, after talking to a number of people here, there will now be an alumni association of the Yeshiva of Flatbush in Miami in South Florida. It's amazing where we've gone all over this country. It's amazing the effect that not only the institution, but we as individuals have enjoyed. And I have to correct one thing. We have a love for the yeshiva. There's no question about that. But this was where it's all at. Having the 65 or so of us here representing the 106 that were 50 years ago, we had something very special. If you forgot about it, you saw it today and you're experiencing it today. Andrew Hirsch came over to me and says, "Do you remember me?" "Yeah, I remember you. You were our first Israeli student to come over and to be with us." And everybody wanted to cheat from the C classes. With Andrew. He came from Israel, he had a lot to tell us. About 3 months ago, a friend of mine in South Florida emailed me. And he said, "Listen, my grandson is going to Las Vegas. And he is going to be meeting with Dennis Prager. Do you have a question that you can send him that Dennis will know it came from the years at the Yeshiva of Flatbush?" Oh, Mark is here, good. So I said, very simple. When you get to speak at the Young Republican Leadership in Las Vegas, you ask Dennis how he pronounced hockey before 1966, because all I can see is Mark, Frank, and Dennis sitting at a desk playing eraser hockey. So the kid goes to Dennis at the assembly, and he says, I've been asked to ask you this question, and Dennis says, "I don't know what the heck you're talking about." I think that's what was reported back. But these were great memories in terms of the shtuyot, the nonsense, the things that were not official. By the way, to the two young ladies that are here as students, Larry Weinreich was happy to tell me that he still has some signed passes from Rabbi Elliott. If anybody is late for class. Or absent for that matter. I'll also go ahead of my quick speech and say to you that there are keys to be turned in from the key scandal that are available tonight if anybody would like that. This is where it all started. We arrived 54 years ago, near the beginning of our personal novel. Not 4 years, but a good portion of 12 years. And after a break of 50 years, here we are. The 13th bar mitzvah graduating class of the Yeshiva of Flatbush. The 13th class. We had our prom at the Manhattan Beach Jewish Center. We did. The first and only graduating class to hold their prom outside of the yeshiva. To this day. And here we are 50 years later, having something outside the yeshiva once again. Educationally speaking, we know that you learn most of what you're going to learn in your lifetime during those formative years, certainly before you reach 18. There's argumentation in regard to, is it the first 7 years and what happens from first grade through high school. Folks, we spent the most important years together. It is here at the high school that although I was only a non-competitive C-class participant, I learned so much that would affect me for the rest of my 50 years up till now. While here, there was no way that I knew and understood what learning was all about. Do you remember Dr. Bill?
Yes.
I just mentioned Dr. Bill, for those of you looking around, was, when we still were in the old building, Dr. Bill was the head custodian who solved all of our problems. The key scandal I just talked about. The explosion of the new chemistry lab. I won't mention any names. Miss Deserter and Silly Putty. Bruce Diamond and his book room. A legend. Donnie Richmond, and all the students he trained or helped to get to graduate from high school. I was reminding my dear friend Bruce of if someone happened to forget their kippah, we had our own scarlet letter. You got a paper yarmulke, you look like a cardinal, that you would wear through the hallways. And God forbid if you ever forget your kippah again. A class, B class, and then most successful C classes. My sensitivity for learning that I really accomplished while here in the yeshiva did originate from the great institution we are here representing. It was here that my love for people, for sharing, for caring, for experience really kicked off. It is here at the yeshiva that I began and became aware and sensitive to a dynamic history of our people. And it was set as the foundation for much of my adult cultural and Judaic work in the community. It was here that I met some unbelievable people. Each generation hopes to leave a step in regard to people that have made a difference in the world. We have great rabbis, but we have given the world two illuminaries that are here, Joseph Tillage and Bruce Diamond, that represent our generation, that make a difference in the world spiritually. That's something for us to be extremely proud of. From this class came many, many unique people. World-renowned physicians, designers, lawyers, State Department officials, teachers, nurses, pharmacists, administrators, and some very unbelievable and extremely successful businessmen and women. It was here that I met the mother of my 4 children, and which has led to 10 grandchildren and 11 on the way in another few months. We all left here with our own feelings, our own flashbacks, and reactions to and about the Yeshiva of Flatbush. Some good, some bad. For me, it was the cornerstone of great memories, learning, and lifelong friends, and now we return towards the closing of that personal journal that we are all part of. It's good to be back with everyone. It started here. Toda Rabah. Shalom. Rav Elia, 25 שנים חלפו מאז התאספנו לאחרונה, וכבר 50 שנים שהכיתה ה-13 של הבית ספר הגבוה התחיל סיימה. כמחנך, אני מאמין שאני יודע מה זה אומר כאשר מורש שלך איתך אחרי תקופה ארוכה של זמן. אני מקווה שאתה, כאשר אתה רואה מה שכאן, ואתה רואה את הפירות שהם עמלים אחרי כל כך הרבה שנים, הוא מאוד מאוד משמעותי. במעמד הזה יש לנו כאן רופאים, אחיות, אנשי חינוך, מנהלי רפואיים, רבנים, עורכי דין, רבי חשבון, עובדים סוציאליים, מנהגים משולטים, סופרים, מנהיגים בשירות ציבורי, שורפים, מעצבי בגדים וכל כך הרבה נציבים אחרים במרשות שונים. אתה המנהל שלנו. נתת לנו השראה. לימדת אותנו כל כך הרבה. היו זמנים שאולי אנחנו היו בקווים איתך ואפילו היה בקווים איתנו, אבל היה כבוד בינינו. כל הכיתה. Give me another minute, folks. אנחנו מבוחרים כי אף שרבים מאיתנו נמצאים בסוף שנות ה-60 שלנו. ואתה מראה לנו יותר צעיר ממה שאני יודע כאשר היינו תלמידים שלך. אנחנו מבורכים לחזור לניו יורק מכל רחבי הארץ וגם מישראל. ויש לך לחגוג את האירוע הזאת יחד איתנו. אנחנו זוכרים היטב ובנימות את כל המורים שלנו, שגם כן נתנו לנו כל כך הרבה. וכמו שנאמר לפניכם, באמת צריך אני לומר את שם של יואב רבין, זכרונו לברכה, כאשר אנחנו באנו ב-1954, אנחנו נכנסו במסגרות של הישיבה, זה הזמן שהיינו מר ברבין, דוקטור ברבין. רב אליח, זוהי הפעם הראשונה שיש לי למלא משתאים ב-54 שנים לדבר איתך בעברית בשלם. אף פעם דיברתי איתך בעברית בשלם והיה הרבה אנגלית. אני מקבל לך, אני באמת, כמו שאמרתי לך לפניכם, נתת לנו כל כך הרבה. Last sentence, folks. בדיוק כפי שאנו גאים להיות כאן, להיות בוגרי המוסד הגדול שלנו, אתה עזרת לצייר, זה מתנה. אתה נמצא כאן, איתנו זה מתנה. עבודה יפה מאוד לידך. אנחנו מקווים שאתה יודע עד כמה אתה עשיר על ידי הפעילות שלך שאתה נתת לנו. אנחנו מודים לך על זה, ברכות וכל טוב. Last thing. Ozzy. Ozzy, I asked if he would come forward for a moment. Barry, come on over here for a minute.
Barry's going to kill me. I promise you this will not be a speech for the 100th anniversary of Sykes-Picot. It's only for the State Department. Barry's not going to, in all humility, he's going to say this against the 10 midot tzedakah of honoring him in public. But Barry has two heroes in life. One of them is Zev Vladimir Jabotinsky, whose autograph I could not get. But his second favorite person on this planet is somebody through the connection of Chabad at Duke University was doable. What they call in my business actionable intelligence. So this is a thank you to Zalman Blooming, the Chabad rabbi in Duke University, North Carolina. But before I give this to Barry, with all the respect to all the geniuses here, I want somebody to spell Coach K, Coach Krzyzewski, Michael Anthony Krzyzewski. He started out in West Point. So let's see, all the geniuses, the doctors, the accountants, the attorneys, the diplomats here, who could spell Coach K besides Barry Mandel? So this is for Barry Mandel. Thank you. Thank you. This signature was authenticated by the Chabad Heksher. And dude, this is Coach K for Barry Mandel. Only the big players will think of this, the athletes. Okay, the second thing I have, this is thank you to the internet. I could not get a Yeshiva of Flatbush, even with all Karen's protexia, we cannot find for the cheerleaders or the boosters a uniform from 1966. So this is second best. This is somebody who played in 2 Olympic Games for the USA basketball. How many NCAA championships did they win? 2? They won 5. This is.
They won 5 total, but 2 with him.
According to Chabad, an honorary Jew at Duke University, Chris Leitner, number 32. For all of you who have grandchildren, this is the type of training you need to join the Foreign Service to come up with things like this. Barry.
This is the last thing before we have dinner. Barry? It's first thing Bruce Diamond had made for you, and this is a copy of it, a unique shirt. Barry, you know we talk a lot, but there's been a secret. And I'm going to share the total secret with you now, because everybody in this room, it's no secret. So now I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. This letter went out to, and I'm paraphrasing it, to everyone in the room and everyone that's not here. And it says as follows. And I want to recognize Karen, Rena, Ozzy, a little ad hoc committee that had been created to help organize. I've been asked by some of our classmates, unbeknownst to Barry, to recognize Barry. As I'm sure you are aware, and so many of us are overwhelmed, by the mission of love that Barry has taken for our 50th reunion, the reunion of the Yeshiva of Flatbush class of '66. Although Barry would never seek or want any recognition for his efforts, there is a genuine feeling that Barry would and should be properly thanked. For what? Well, almost 18 months of Herculean effort in making our reunion meaningful and unique. Countless emails to all of us, planning and preparing for a reunion. Many phone calls for coordination of activities. Collection, editing, and creation of a memory book. The other tokens he has prepared for us to take with us. Out-of-pocket expenses for many, many items. Arranging for scholarships to the reunion for classmates who may need assistance. Organization of the brunch the day following the reunion. The special reunion in Israel for our classmates who have made Aliyah and are now living in Israel. And as was said before, we're so grateful to the 3 that came in and are here from Israel for this reunion. His efforts and contributions, let me remind you, to the 25th reunion in 1991, facilitating for many of us to reconnect after 50 years. There are insufficient words to thank Barry for all that he has done for us. And I want to repeat, this has been a journey of love that this guy just did from the bottom of his heart. It is felt that a meaningful thank you would be to contribute to Barry's present with the travel to the reunion to the classmates in Israel who are not able to be here. This is a voluntary request that was made of your classmates without any pressure. a way of letting you know that we appreciate your efforts on this journey. I want you to know that we told everyone we'll make the announcement today. You're going to have to wait a couple of more days to get your check, but your classmates will be giving you, I feel like it was my bar mitzvah. Your classmates will be presenting you with a significant check to go towards your travel expenses. Someone mentioned before, what's Barry going to do tomorrow? He told you about the book that he's assisting Rav Eliach with, and I think it was Dennis that said 60 years, 55th year reunion. Folks, there are insufficient words, I repeat, to thank this young man for what he did for us in bringing us together. Barry, your classmates love you, and we thank you very, very much.